Hello, continuing with our Django Documentation section getting started, and today we are coming to part 5 of the tutorial testing. Okay, and as normal I will change it to ease my eyes using dark mode extension. Turn it on so it can be dark, and then normalize the window, drag the window to the right side, left side, and pick up my Visual Studio here for the right side. And remember to turn off this bar appearance. Turn off don't show it here, and then again appearance, don't show primary sidebar. Okay, so that's we can compare our codes easier. Next, now we go. Of course, we will begin from where our previous tutorial left off. And if you need help, you can click on getting help from the Django Documentation. Okay, now what are we doing today is an important part of developing web application or for software application. So here we are introducing automatic testing. What are automated tests? Tests are routines that check the operation of your code. Testing operates at different levels. Some tests might able to a tiny detail. Does a particular model method return value as expected, while others examine the overall operation of the software. Does a sequence of user inputs on the site produce a desired result? That's no different from the kind of testing you did earlier in tutorial 2 using the shell. Remember API and shell? To examine the behavior of a method, or running the application and entering data to check how it behaves. That's we did it in tutorial 2 using API and shell. What's difference is an automatic test is that the testing work is done for you by the system. You create a set of tests once, and then as you make change to your app, you can check that your code will still work as originally intended without having to perform a consuming manual test. So instead of running shell using API to test each new codes, we just used to create an automatic test to do it, and Django helps it easy for you. So why do you need to create tests? Of course, to check that your code is good or not. I think so. You may feel that quite enough on your plate just learning Python Django and having yet another thing to learn and do may seem overwhelming and perhaps unnecessary. Yes, most of the time for beginners we think that writing a test is unnecessary because we believe that our code are good enough already. After all, our post application work quite heavily now. Going through the trouble of creating automated tests is not going to make it work any better. So you see, that's most of us things, but it's not like that. It's better that you should have it, okay? And I think they said so. We make it fast. So tests will save your time, of course, because if you instead of having to do it manually, you can write some code and it check it for you. So that's I think so, and I don't need to read. You can read further detail on that. Tests don't just identify problems; they prevent them. Of course, a test will check for mistake in your code, but also by checking the mistake, it can point to that mistake and prevent it, and that help you to prevent it happening in the future. Okay, they light up your code from the inside. And when something goes wrong, they focus light on the part that has gone wrong, even if you hadn't even realized it had gone wrong. Okay? Tests make your code more attractive. Why? You might have create a brilliant piece of software, but you will find that many other developers will refuse to look at it because it lacks of test. Without test, they don't trust it. Jacob Kaplan-Meier, one of the Django original developers, says code without test is broken by design. Okay, so many developers, before they check for code, they will run a test to see whether this is good or not. Yeah, that other developers want to see tests in your software before they take it seriously is yet another reason for you to start writing tests. Okay. Tests help teams work together. Of course, like here, then when your team sees how your code works and they can check it before they do anything, amendment or adjustment on it, then it's good. Yeah, that's why. Basic testing strategy. Basic testing strategy. There are many ways to approach writing tests. Some programmers follow this discipline called test-driven development. They actually write their tests before they write their code. Before writing code, they write the test. This might seem counterintuitive, but in fact, it's similar to what most people will often do anyway. They describe a problem, then create some code to solve it. Test-driven development formalizes the problem in a Python test case. This is for experienced, advanced, and developers. For beginner level, I think we will follow like this tutorial. We write our code first, and then we read our code, and we'll consider what our code is for, and then we might predict what problem might be. And then by predicting the problem, we will write the test. That's just for beginner. For beginner level, I think it's better than, and this is for advanced developer, I think. But maybe beginner can do that. You can think of problem, and then you write the test first, and then after that you will write your code, which I don't think is practical for a beginner. But this is my own opinion only. Okay. So let's do that right away. Here, they said sometimes it's difficult to figure out where to get started with writing tests. Of course, for beginners, it's really difficult. If you have written several thousand lines of Python, choosing something to test might not be easy. In such a case, it's fruitful to write your first test the next time you make a change, either when you add a new feature or fix a bug. Okay. And now we go to writing our first test. We identify a bug. Fortunately, there's a bug in the post application for us to fix right away. Wow, that's great news. The question was published recently. Method returns true if the question was published within the last days, which is correct, but also if the question public date field is in the future, which certainly isn't. Of course, was published cannot be true if it is in the future, but yeah, that's a bug. Confirm the bug by using the shell to check the method of a question whose date lies in the future. Okay, we will go that. So we will run Python shell, and we can go with our command prompt or PowerShell, of course, or we go Visual Code. As you see in some of my videos before, I have make my Visual Code runs command prompt. I can add a new command prompt here. Either PowerShell, but PowerShell will, as you remember, PowerShell will cause some problem here. So we are not using PowerShell. And if I create a new command prompt, it jump right into activate the virtual environment. Okay. Now I run it from my side already in there. While we are running, we are going to run this Python manage py shell. Oh, why not copy? Okay. Manage py shell. Here we go. Now we copy. Import datetime, Control copy, Control V, enter. From Django util, import time zone, Control copy, Control V. That's faster. And you see what we import here: datetime, time zone, and from our models in our polls app, we import question. Control copy, enter, Control V, enter. Models. Where's our model? Views, result. Okay, I will close some. We are not working on templates at the moment, so URL views. And do you remember Control B? Control B to open our site bar. Polls, polls here, and our models here. Okay, then Control B. Okay, we have our models. So here from models, we import class question here. That's in our shell. Now, create a question instant with pub date 30 days in the future. Okay, future question equal to is assigned to question pub date with time zone plus date time using time delta at 30 days in the future. Control V, enter. Okay, now was it published recently? So that's our question. Control copy, Control V, enter. True, which is not true. Because in the future, since things in the future are not recent, this is clearly wrong. Okay. So now create a test to expose the bug. What we've just done in shell to test for the problem is exactly what we can do in an automatic test. So let's turn that into an automatic test. A conventional place for an application test is in the application test.py file. The testing system will automatically find tests in any file whose name begins with test. Put the following in the test.py file in post application. So again, Control B, remember that? I have to be here first. Okay, then Control B. Test.py, here. It's in the post folder for the post application, and then we have the test.py. And then Control B to turn off the sidebar. So we have test.py URL. Okay. Actually, we have to open the model also. Don't know why. Okay. So, test case. Here we have test case. So, we copy back to our documentation. We click on the icon, copy this code. Copy it, okay? And then we turn back to our Visual Studio Code. Select all and Control V. That's what we do. Okay. And I load down it. We can read it here. It's easier to read. So we import date time, what we did exactly in our shell before. Test case, but we will import the class test from a test case from test util time zone, and the model will import the question. Now, class question test case. We define test was published recently with future question. Okay, was published recently returns false for question whose pub date is in the future. So we have time is assigned by time zone now plus the date in the future. Okay, then we have future question. Question public date equal time. So if time now plus 30 days in the future. Okay. Server said future question was published recently. Of course, in the future it's not recently, so that must return false. Okay. Time now plus date time delta days 30. Okay. Sometime at the beginning level, reading code is a headache because maybe you don't understand. From import easy, yeah? But some line of codes, it's why time now? Now is now, okay? So why now plus for 30 days? For sure now plus 30 days is in the future. Okay? Then because the future is already future, so why you put question with the public date equal to time? So for sure this will make you what? False. Of course. So sometimes it's really confusing to read code. Don't worry. The more you get familiar yourself with Django, the more you will understand it easily. At the beginner level, just do it like we're walking in the park and we're watching the trees, watching the accessory, anything, facilities to get to know the park. And then later, when you're doing some walking, some hiking, some running, or cycling, then from time to time you will get yourself familiar with what is in the park, okay? Here we have created a Django test case subclass with the method that creates question instant with a pub date in the future. So here's a subclass with the instant in the future, okay? We then check the output of which ought to be false, okay? So we have it here. So it shows that we have not saved yet. So Control S or click on File, Save, okay? Now, in the terminal, we can run our test. Okay, I will copy to make it faster. Copy and paste it. Copy. But you see, we are still in our shell. So what we should do, we should quit. And then I can Control V and run our test. Boom. So we have what? Failed. Why? Because you remember we have a bug in our code. Model. Why? Okay. Model test URL. Okay. View, appearance, and sidebar. Here we have models, and the question has something was published here that accept all data, including the future. Okay. So that's why we got one failure, destroying test, and so what they say now. And you will see something like here, chase back to here, fail, and failure. Okay? The path is our path is here, like my path is here. User, Vince, desktop, DJ, my site, it's my path, okay? And they also set the line which has some problem, line 16 in their case. In our case is line 18 in test 18 in the test py file. false. So test py line 18 here cause a problem. So it detects that something is wrong from the model question. Okay. Different error. If instead you are getting a name error here, you may have missed step part 2, tutorial 2, where we have add import to date, time, and time zone on to post.models.py. Copy the import from that section and try reverse back to tutorial 2 and do it if you have not done it yet. But for our case, here we have done, so we have the same error, the same message as the text here. Okay. So what happened in this? Manage py test post. Look for test in the post application. It found subclass on Django test case class. It create a special database for the purpose of testing. Look for a test method, one whose names begin with test. And test was published recently with future question. It creates a question instant whose public date field is 30 days in the future. So it will puppet. Okay, I want to see what happened in the future if the question is in the future. And that's why if it is false, then it's okay, your code is right. But if it's true, the result comes true, like we see when we doing our shell. Remember that? When we do our shell, it said that true. True is not what the test is for. The test is running for expecting the value false. So if it comes out as false, means the test, the code in model here is correct. But if the future is, something complicated, okay, later, as we see, when you put a question for was published, means that it must be published recently or in the past. But if it is published, will be published in the future, then it means that then it is not was published. That's what is wrong here. Okay, so the test identify it. Okay, and using assert is method is discovered that was published recently returns true. That's what I said. I tried to say it. Okay, so was published returns true. Talk we wanted to return false. Was means that recently or in the past, cannot be published and will be published. It's not was published. Okay, that's what we are doing. Complicated, confusing. Fixing the bug. We already know what the problem is. Question was published recently should return false if the public date is in the future. Amend the method model py so that it will only return true if the date also is in the past. Okay, so we only accept it when the public date is in the past, will not be in the future. Okay, so what we should amend is here the subclass here. Okay, Control copy. I think I can click here. Copy this code and go back to models. And as I said here, I will make you see it easier by dropping it up here. And Control V. Okay. Tab. Tab. Okay. So you see our previous code is here. Okay, our previous code return self-published date larger or equal to time zone now minus date time day 1. Okay. But actually we will have to do it now. What is define now as the time now. or we can use time zone now instead. Okay, then return now minus the date time delta day 1 must be lesser or equal to self-published date, and which is also lesser or equal to now. So it cannot be in the future. Okay, see that? And because of that's so clear, I can delete this one. It's easier. And file save. And normalize a window and drag it to the left side, right side. Okay. And then run the test again. First we have to save. File save. And back to here. Python manage py test polls. Enter. See, now we are okay. Yeah. One test result failed is in the past. Previously, we have a failed. Okay. Here, previously we have a failed result. Remember that? And now we run again. Found one test, creating test database for alias default. Then check silent run 1 at 001 second. Okay, that's okay. Here you see run one test and okay. Oh, that's good. After identifying the bug, we wrote the test that exposed it and correct the bug in the code. See, write the code first. Then we were thinking of what may happen, and then we write the test. That's for beginner level. It's easier than you doing the test-driven method. By writing the test first and then write the code, it's really, really challenging for a beginner. Okay. Many other things might go wrong with our application in the future, but we can be sure that we won't inadvertently reintroduce this bug, because running the test will warn us immediately. We can consider this little portion of the application pinned down safely forever, because we have a test guarding our code now for this part. Yeah, for was published. There are a lot of more we should check later. Don't worry. Okay, more comprehensive test. While we are here, we can further pin down the was published recently method. In fact, it would be positively embarrassing if in fixing one bug we had introduced another. Add two more test methods to the same class to test the behavior of the method more comprehensively. So what are the two more tests? Go back to our test here and lowering down it. I either can close this one also and rerun it later. Okay. Okay, so I can see it easier. So what is needed? Post test was published recently with old question. Here's with future question. So this is a new test. So instead of future, we go with old. Yeah. Make it fast. Time zone, time, date, second. Old question equal to public time, self-assert. If old question public recently, false. Okay. So, was published recently return false for question whose public date is older than 1 day. Older than 1 day is not recently. Okay. It depends on your setting, because here, day 1. You can make it day 5 or so. Test published recently with recent question. So this is, we have future, we have past, and then we have recent. Yeah. Was published recently true, returns true for question whose public date is within the last day. Within that, the last day, okay? So we make it exactly the same, except it is hour 23, so within that day, okay? Recent question is public date, and it should return true. Okay, so we copy the code back to ours. Enter 2 times, so I can go back there, and then Control V. Okay, then I go like here. I think I make it easier for me to see. Is 2 line. Okay, that's easier to see. So, and you can command out to see. Oh, sorry. There's one thing we have to do. It must be within the class question model test. Cannot be outside. Okay, because this is a subclass. So what we have to do is picking all of this and tap. Click tap. So you put 1 tap. So make it inside of the class question model test. Yeah. So we have done. And if you want, you can go with command so that you can easily recognize what you are doing. Remember how to command. Sharp, and then future question. Okay. Also, we can do it like here. Tap to go inside to the sharp. Past question. Also here. Sharp recent question. So by using command, it will make it easier for you later when you come back. You can see, here's the test for the future question, here's the test for the past question, and here's the test for recent question. And also when you transfer to your team, the other developer can see it. Here's what he is doing, she is doing. Okay, that's easier. So that's a good technique, using command to locate what you are doing. Okay. Now we have 3 tests that confirm the question public recently was public recently returns sensitive value of past, recent, future question. Again, pose is a minimal application, but however complex, it grows in the future, and whatever other code interacts with, we now have some guarantee that the method we have written tests for will behave in expected way. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I'm going back here. I cannot see that. Oh man, cannot see it. Okay, open here. Terminal here. New terminal. Of course, you know, because this is PowerShell, and then we turn it off. Back to our command, which is here, and don't know. Remember? Okay. So we have Python manage py test pods and run it. Now see what we have. Wow! What the heck? Okay, you see? Run 1 test in 0.001 second, and it's okay. Okay. Because I have not saved the test yet. The dog barking annoying me. Man. Okay. We run the test again. See, now we have 3 tests running, and the result is okay. We have 3 tests, yeah? The future, past, and recent. Everything goes right. That's the great news. Okay, and what I'm doing, drag it to the right. Okay. Now we test the view. The post application is fairly undiscriminating. It will publish any question, including ones whose public field lies in the future. We should improve this. Setting a published date in the future should mean that the question is published at the moment, but invisible until then. So, a test for a view. When we fixed a bug above, we wrote the test first and then the code to fix it. In fact, that was an example of test-driven development. Yes, that's what we mentioned about. Test-driven development. Wrote the test first and then write the code later. But it doesn't really matter in which order we do the work. So for beginner, I think we write the code first and then we will predict what will happen and then we write the test. In our first test, we focus closely on the internal behavior of the code. For this test, we want to check its behavior as it would be experienced by the user through a web browser. Before we try to fix anything, let's have a look at the tools at our disposal. So, Django Test Client. Django provides a test client to simulate a user interacting with a code at the view level. We can use this test.py or even in the shell. Use it in the test.py or in the shell. We will start again with the shell where we need to do a couple of things that won't be necessary in test.py. The first is to set up a test environment in the shell. Okay, so we have to open the shell again. Okay, go here. Here, or I think I go here. It's quite some inconvenient way. Yeah? Okay, then close it. I use my command prompt here so that it's, yeah. So, my site. And what now? Python manage py shell. And what's next? From Django.test.utils import setup test environment. Is it? Okay, then now set up test environment. And that's it. Setup test environment installs a template renderer which will allow us to examine some additional attributes on response such as response context that otherwise wouldn't be available. Okay? Note that this method does not set up the test database, so the following will be run against the existing database and the output may differ slightly depending on what questions you already created. We created what's up. Yeah? You might get unexpected result if your time zone in setting.py isn't correct. For now, we use UTC. I think it's good. If you don't remember setting it early, check it before continuing. I remember I checked it already. Next, we need to import the test client class. Later in test.py, we will use the Django test class, which comes with its own client, so it won't be required. But now we have to use it. Okay, control copy, yeah. Now, from Django test import client, control copy. Where are we? What the heck? Here. Control V. And what's next? Create an instance of the client for our use. Okay, so we client, take it from client. Okay, Control V. Create an instance. Okay, from the class client. With that ready, we can ask the client to do some work for us. Now, what is that? Get a response from the /URL. Now let's see what has happened. Control copy, Control V, enter. not found. Yeah, because you remember when we put it only like that, we have not set a home page yet. HTTP here. Yeah. So we have to do at the moment as post and slash. Remember that? Okay, because that's, so we have here not found. Okay, exactly what it's on the screen here. On the text is not found. So if we should expect a 404 for that address, if you instead see an invalid HTTP host header error or and a 400 response, you probably omitted the setup test environment code described earlier. In case you see some other error, you have not set this one. You have not set this one. So set it. And so you have to rerun your shell, quit your shell, rerun it with setting this, and then you will see that. Okay? Okay. Response status. We should get the 404. Control copy. Control V. 404. Yeah. Here 404. Here 404. See, that's easy. On the other hand, we should expect to find something at post. Of course, that's what we set. Yeah. We will use reverse to reverse back to the URL rather than a hard code URL. Yeah, reverse is good. So then we import that. Import reverse. Control V. Enter. From Django, import reverse. So now response client got reverse post index. Control V. Enter. So then what next? Response status code. And it should return 200. See? 200. See? 200. I'm good. Response content. Control copy. You see? Easy is control copy and control V. You don't need to type. Okay. So what you see is that. Yeah? Okay. That's the content. And remember post /1. It's what's up here. What's, and this is for the comma, upper comma, up. What's up? Okay. Here, it's the same. Okay, it's the same because we are using here. What I said. This bunch of HTML code stands for this. I cannot remember, colon or comma. So colon, yeah. I think so. Okay. Next, response context code, single quote. Yeah, single quote. What I mean, single quote, double quote and single quote. Yeah. What the heck I'm mumbling. So the question is, what's up? What I'm mumbling about this here is a single quote, and in HTML, the single quote is represented by that. Okay. So you see, we have what's up, and that's what they are. What's up? Okay. Now we improve our view. The list of posts shows posts that aren't published yet. Those that have a public date in the future, published date in the future. Let's fix that. Okay. In tutorial 4, we introduce a class-based view based on list view. Okay, this is index view, list view. Okay, template name post index HTML context. Okay, let's back to view. Back to our view here. Okay, index view post index here, exactly the same. Here. And here. See here. Okay, exactly the same. Get query set self, return order public date within the 5 days here. Return order public published date 5 days. Okay. We need to amend the get query set method and change it to that it also checks the date by comparing it with time zone now. First, we need to add an import. So from Django, you tell import time zone, Control copy, back up here, enter, Control V, time zone. Okay, we have time zone, but not yet using it. We will use it immediately. And then we must amend the get query set method like so. Okay, the get query set here from question object order by public date, publish date within 5 days. We will return to question object filter. We use a filter where public date less than or equal to LTE, less than or equal to time zone now, and order by public date. Okay, so we will change a little bit, but copy text. That's the easiest way. Copy it and replace here. Is that? Okay, Control V. Kaboom! And kaboom, we have something we need to do is here, tap. So it comes back in, and that's it. Okay? Okay, also we can tap it here, because it's within that. Okay, that's it. So, this is another type of command. We command a full paragraph. Okay? Another, instead of you using sharp here, you remember? Sharp signal. Okay, so done. File, save. And what's next here? Question object filter pub date less than or equal to time zone now returns a query set containing question whose publish date is less than or equal to, that is earlier than or equal to time zone now. Okay. Now we do the testing our view. Now you can satisfy yourself. My dogs. Wow. Wait. My dogs, sorry for that. Wow, that's great. Lex, wait, Lex, wait. Now that you can satisfy it, I cannot live with that. Now that you can satisfy yourself that this behaves as expected by firing up run server, loading the site in your browser, creating questions with dates in the past and future, and checking that only those that have been published are listed. You don't want to have to do that every single time you can make any change that might affect this. So let's also create a test based on our shell session above. Okay, add the following posts to test py. Post test. So we import reverse for reversing our URL. The copy the test py, the import path, time t. Okay, here to v reverse. Okay, and we'll create a short function to create question as well as a new test class. So a short function create question here, and a new class is question index view test. Okay. Okay, I think I will copy that and go to the end of the line. Where's the end of the line? Man. The end of the line. Tap back. Okay, and Ctrl V. See what we have here. With a new function, create question, and this will create a question given question text and publish the given number of days offset to now, negative for question published in the past, positive for questions that have yet to be published. Okay, so time zone is equal now plus date and time, days and days, return question object created, question text public date time. Okay, then we create a class question index view test. With that we test no question, test past question, test future question and past question, and test two past question. Okay, and in detail is it's a code, yeah. Okay, I have something to do as to bring it to the right. Okay, and save it. For the time being, as a beginner, just do as what I said, like we are walking around the park to see what is inside the park. Don't worry too much if you cannot understand what the heck is on your screen at the moment. Just doing the walking in the park to see what we have, and later we will go further when you practice more, and then you understand it. And by doing our practice with our own code will make you easier understand it. Okay, let's look at some of this more closely. First, the question shortcut function create question to take some repetition out of the process of creating question. What they said is here. This, because it's repetition, so we just create a function for that. Okay. Test no question doesn't create any question but checks the message. No polls are available, and verifies that the latest question list is empty. Note that the Django test case class provides some additional assertion methods. In this example, we use assert contain and assert query set equal. No question here. We set assert equal, assert contain, and assert query set equal. Okay. In test pass question, we create a question and verify that it appears in the list. Okay. In test future question, we create a question with a public date in the future. The database is reset for each test method. So the first question is no longer there, and so again the index shouldn't have any question in it. Okay. And so on. Now what we are doing, testing the detail view. What we have worked well, however, even though future questions don't appear in the index, user can still reach them if they know or guess the right URL. So we need to add a similar constraint to detail view. And view, detail view here. Okay. So get query set and return object filter public name time zone. And here we just use like that here. Now we check and adjust it. Yeah? We get a new method. Add a new method to it. Control copy. So here we have model equal question, template name like that, and detail view, and enter, and V, and home. Okay. Define get query set self exchange return question. Okay. Check for it. Yeah, that's good. Control S to save it. Okay. We should then add some tests to check that a question whose public date is in the past can be displayed, and that one with a published date in the future is not. So in the test py, we add class question detail view test. And the test py, we have question index test view. So we will go with another question. Oh man. Okay, another question. And copy it, and then we paste though. Control V. Okay. Class question detail view. So to save time, you can read it later because it's in the documentation. And don't worry about if you don't understand at the beginner level. Just that I said, walk in the park. Ideas for must test. First, we have to save it first. File, save. We are to add a similar getQuerySet method to result view and create a new test class for that view. It'll be very similar to what we have just created. In fact, there will be a lot of repetition, you see. It ends that you see the test is more code than view. Also, models. That's a lot of codes. Has a lot of codes here. Okay. We could also improve our application in other ways, adding tests along the way. For example, it's silly that question can be published on a site that have no choice. So our views could check for this and exclude such question. Our tests would create a question without choice and then test that it's not published, as well as create a similar question with choice and test that it is published. You see, minimal application like this poll application, but you can test various way of testing. Perhaps login another test. I mean, users should be allowed to see unpublished question, but no ordinary visitor. Again, what needs to be added to the software to accomplish this should be accompanied by a test. Whether you write the test first and then make the code pass the test, or work out the logic in the code first and then write the test is to prove it. At a certain point, you are bound to look at your test and wonder whether your code is suffering from the test bloat, which brings us to when testing, more is better. Okay. It might seem that our tests are growing out of control. Yeah, it's so many tests that you can take. At this rate, there will soon be more code in our test than in our application. Yeah, you see, in our test, we have a bunch of code here. Man, that's a bunch of code. But actually, our view code is that simple. Not saying our models, our URL, test. Wow. Okay. And the repetition is unaesthetic compared to the elegant conciseness of the rest of our code. It doesn't matter. Let them grow. For the most part, you can write the test once and then forget about it. It will continue performing its useful function as you continue to develop your program. Sometimes tests will need to be uploaded. Suppose that we amend our views so that only questions with choice are published, which we are not amended yet, but I don't think we need to do that for this application. In that case, many of our existing tests will fail, see? Telling us exactly which tests need to be amended to bring them up to date. So, to that extent, tests help look after themselves. Test to test the test. At worst, you continue developing, you might find that you have some tests that are now redundant. Even that's not a problem. In testing redundancy, it's a good thing. As long as your tests a sensible range, they won't become unmanageable. Good rules of thumb include having a separate test class for each model and view. Each model and view, you have a separate, yes, we have here class model, and then we have class view. And even for class view, we have two detail view and index view, two separate class. A separate test method for each set of conditions you want to test. A test method name that describes their function. Question, index, test. Okay? The name shows it, describes it already. Okay. Okay. Further testing. This tutorial only introduced some of the basic of testing, and you see the basic is that much. There's a great deal more you can do, and a number of very useful tools at your disposal to achieve some very clever things. For example, while you test here covered some of the internal logic of a model and the way of views publish information you can use in browser framework. Okay, so they are introducing more item, and you can go for continuous integration with coverage. So for more detail, you can go with testing in Django here, which at the advanced level, when we do our programming, intermediate level, we will go for that, okay? But for the beginner level, we are here is good enough. With that much of test is good enough, okay? So what's next? We come to what's next means that we are at the end of the tutorial. Before that, I think it's good to see what we have done so far, whether we have any problem made. Okay, so it's query set. So I quit the query set first, the shell first, and then I run the test. I don't see the test here. Okay. We run the test Python manage py test polls run. Okay, we ran 10 tests and it's okay. We have no problem. So that's good, man. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at what's next at the end of our tutorial. So, for full details on testing, see testing in Django. When you are comfortable with that, go to part 6. Okay, and this is the end of our video today, and thank you for watching, and hope to see you in the writing of part 6. You remember we have 7 parts to go here. And also we can go with an advanced tutorial. Let me see whether we need to go there or just the first getting started. Okay, thank you.